friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Emma and this is Emma's Cottage. In today's tutorial, we're going to be bleaching some shirts. I am so excited. It's been a while since I've been outside bleaching, but I finally have a beautiful sunny day here in the Pacific Northwest. So those of you that follow me on my channel, you know that that's my preferred time to bleach is outside in the sunlight. I have tried bleaching indoors, specifically in my garage with artificial light. It does work, but it's not my favorite. It takes a little bit longer. There's a little bit more tricks that you have to do to make sure that you don't have bleeding of the bleach. And if you guys are interested in how I did that, I'll go ahead and I'll link the video up above. But this video, it's somewhat of a continuation of my last tutorial where I taught you guys how to create a mock-up digital design. Now, what is that really fast? For those of you that didn't watch it, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna link the video up above. So if you want, start there first. But what is a mock-up digital design? Let me give you a really good example. Let's say you don't have a purple shirt and you have this idea in your mind and you don't wanna go buy a purple shirt because you're not sure if it's gonna look good. So you find an image of a purple shirt, which you can buy on Etsy, design bundles, lots of different places. They have the picture of the shirt. Then you purchase a design of a bleach, just like this. The shirt's been bleached, like a bleach spot. You put the bleach spot on top of the purple shirt in a digital design space. So in my example from my last video, I used Cricut Design Space, but there's lots of different platforms that you can use to do the same trick. So I put the bleach spot on front of the purple and pink shirt. And then I got an image that I had designed and I put the image on top of the whole thing. And that way I never went outside, bleached the shirt, and then came back inside and sublimated it. I did it all digitally just to see for myself, would I think this is cute? Yeah, sure, I think this is great, but will it sell? So then the next step is put it in front of your family, your friends, your customers, and say, hey, what do you guys think about this design? And if you get some interest, that's when you know you've got a top seller, and go ahead and order your product. That way you're not wasting money, time outside bleaching it if it's not gonna be a product that's gonna sell. So with that said, we're gonna continue now. You guys saw me create the mock-ups. And I was like, hey, yeah, these are cute. Let's try it. Now we're actually going to go outside and we're going to try bleaching so that the mock-up that I designed, I'm going to create it in real life, right? So the two colors that I was envisioning when I was doing the mock-up, these are both Gildan. They're the 6400. There's lots of different websites you can buy the shirts from. Typically the one that I purchased it from is clothingshoponline.com. There's lots of different places that you can order these shirts. Now I did just look on Clothing Shop Online and both of these shirts have lots of inventory. Like I'm talking 999 plus shirts. So you guys should be able to go get these in almost all of the sizes from what I saw as of today, which is Saturday, May 21st, I believe, 2022. So last year, there was a huge shirt shortage. It was so hard to get your hands on shirts, but I'm telling you right now, if you are interested in these shirts, go get them quick because there's plenty right now. Okay, so what are you going to need to follow me in this tutorial today? So of course, we're bleaching, so you're gonna need some bleach. I typically use the Clorox brand, but I've seen people use generic brands and they've been successful. The one tip that I would tell you is don't use the no splash formula, I believe is what it's called. It'll have a little thing down here. I think it's a little red strip down here on the bottom that says no splash. It hasn't worked for me. I've used it in the past. It will work. It's just the bleach, for some crazy reason, spreads. And so if I'm trying to get like a good crisp image, that bleach is just gonna keep spreading. I don't know why, there's just something in it. So don't use that one, just use the regular bleach. I do not dilute my bleach. Lots of people do. If you want to, that's up to you. I don't, because I'm only bleaching a few shirts at a time. If I was outside bleaching probably 10 or more, I might dilute my bleach just to slow down the process just a little bit. But in this case, I don't need to. I'm only doing 2 and I want it as quick as I can. I wanna be in and out and get it done, right? What else would you want? You would probably want some gloves so that you're protecting your hands. You would maybe want a mask, some goggles, just to make sure that you're protecting yourself. And then of course, if you're outside, probably some sunscreen, you guys. Let's protect our skin. Also, another thing that I use while I'm outside is hydrogen peroxide. I also use this inside and I'll tell you about that in a second. Why do I use this outside? So if I'm outside and I'm bleaching, and I can see that maybe the purple shirt is bleaching a little bit faster than my pink shirt. This one's just taking a little bit longer. And I'm like, I want them to kind of end up to be about the same so that I'm not inside washing this one while this one's still bleaching. I can spray this hydrogen peroxide and I just spray it directly onto the bleach marks, mainly the big bleach image, to slow that one down. And that's just so that it helps prevent getting any holes, right? So you can spray it outside to slow down the process. It's not gonna stop it altogether, you guys. It's just gonna slow it down. Then once this one catches up, Then I can take them both inside and I can wash them. Now, I told you there was 2 different ways that I use this. I also use this inside when I'm pressing on the heat press. Now that I've got this nice crisp and white, and it looks great where this bleach spot is, when I put it under intense heat, which 400 degrees when I'm sublimating, this typically is going to scorch, is what we call it. All that means is that your shirt, the white bleach center, could potentially turn a little yellow, orangey color, right? Because it's scorched. All you have to do is lightly spray a little bit of a mist of hydrogen peroxide. You don't want it saturated wet, just a nice little mist. You're gonna go ahead and get your heat press and you're gonna lower it about an inch or 2 above the bleach mark, right, that got scorched, just for like 5 to 10 seconds, and you're gonna see that it's gonna start to evaporate, the hydrogen peroxide is. You lift that up and guess what? Your shirt is now magically white again and it no longer has that scorch mark. Another way I've seen people use it is they'll spray it on a little bit, take it out in the sun, and it'll evaporate that way. You could do that way too. I haven't tried that way. I've just used my heat press and it works within a few seconds. The scorch marks are gone. Okay, we're gonna do 2 types of bleaching today. I don't have a preference. It just depends on the look that I'm going for. For example, this shirt here, you can see that it's not sharp and crisp circle, right? It's just kind of like a big bleach mark. So to get this type of look, I use a mixed spray bottle, like this one, right? And I would pour the bleach inside this and I would spray just directly onto a spot that I want bleached. We're gonna do that method today. The other method that you guys have seen me use a lot is I just put a little bit of bleach in this little container here, this little glass container. I've got 2 different brushes. I've got one that's smaller and one that's a little bit thicker. I use the smaller one to outline my image. And then I will go with the bigger brush, I'll dip it in and I'll paint inside of that image so that it's just a nice crisp center and then it doesn't have bleed marks kind of like this one all the way around, right? So we're gonna do those 2 different methods today. And in both of these methods, I'm also gonna do my scrunch technique, which is what you see here, all these little different areas. I scrunch up the shirt and I spray. So we're gonna do that today. Once we're done outside bleaching, I will take my shirts inside. I get this question all the time. Do you have to wait till your shirt is 100% dry? I do not. It sometimes is best because what's going to happen is sometimes if your bleach is not completely dry, it will bleed onto the rest of your shirt. And so other areas of your shirt that you don't want bleached get bleached. With my technique, at least in the summertime, it has worked out really great. So if my shirts are not completely dry, I quickly grab them. I usually have like 2, sometimes 5 at a time. I run upstairs to my sink. I have a big sink in my laundry room. Turn it on cold water, and then I get my Dawn dish soap. You heard me right, my Dawn dish soap. I get these wet, I get a few squirts of the Dawn dish soap, and then I just scrub the entire shirt, like just suds it up and scrub. And I do it as fast as I can. And then I'll sit there and I'll rinse out the shirt and rinse out the shirt. For me, that works, and my bleach doesn't bleed, right? And it wasn't completely dry and it doesn't bleed, but you have to be quick if you're gonna go that route. And then I just throw it in the wash, just a cold wash. At this point, you don't have to do detergent because you've already done the Dawn dish soap, but if you wanted to do some detergent, you absolutely could. Just be careful if you're selling, make sure that you have a detergent that is very sensitive for sensitive skin so that you're not, giving it to a customer that's gonna have an allergic reaction. And then I do dry my shirts in the dryer. I do a low heat or an air fluff, whatever your dryer calls it, that's what I do. Very low heat because I don't want these to shrink. Then I come inside once these are fully washed and dried, and then I'm going to sublimate them with my heat press. I would get my sublimation design like I have here. I've got my mama bear from my last tutorial. What I'm gonna do with my mama bear is I'm actually going to cut her out, and I like to get it kind of tight around the image because this is one of the ones I'm actually gonna trace nice and tight, where my other one, actually goes with the purple shirt, my other one was like, do not mess with me. I'm gonna do that one just to spray. But I'll go ahead and show you what we're gonna do. You want a pair of scissors. These are not my nice ones. My kids keep running off with my nice ones. One thing I wanted to point out, you guys, when you're printing your sublimation designs, you can see that this is very faded. Don't let that scare you. This is completely normal. It will, when you actually press it onto your shirt, it will be bright and vibrant. But one thing I wanted to show you, sometimes your printer can do that. See that right there? If I were to press this image onto my shirt right now, guess what? That sublimation ink is going to press onto my shirt, and I don't want that. So make sure you're checking your image before you actually press it so that you don't get those unwanted areas. So let me quickly cut around this. I'll go ahead and speed it up. All right, something like that works out for me. See how I kind of just cut around the perimeter? Now, on my first tutorial, way back when, I would actually take this outside, I would put it face down because that's the way I'm gonna press it, and then I would trace that with my paintbrush. Truthfully, you guys, I never had an uh-oh. I can't believe it, I truly didn't. But I've thought about it and I'm like, gosh, what if the bleach got on this image? I just ruined my image. So one thing that I have changed since that last tutorial is I start using either parchment paper. So you see here, I'll make sure I have everything listed below if you guys are interested. You can use parchment paper or you can use butcher paper. Just make sure it's the non-wax kind. I've got butcher paper back here too. So either one works for pressing. And in this case, I'm just using it as an outline. So all I would do is just quickly trace this and then cut that same thing so that way when I take it outside, I'm tracing my bleach on the parchment paper and not my actual image that I could harm when I take it outside. I think that's pretty much it of the things you're gonna need besides when you go to press. Of course, you're gonna need a heat press. You could use a Cricut heat press. My favorite though is these type of heat presses because you make sure that you get the right pressure. When you're doing the sublimation pressing, you know, you wanna make sure that you've got the heat and the pressure to make sure that you're gonna get a full, good image, bright, vibrant design, right? Now, one thing I do wanna mention, this isn't just for sublimation. If you guys didn't want to do a sublimation design, you could still press HTV or a screen print or something. I just am a huge fan of sublimation, so we're going to do sublimation today. So I think that's pretty much it of what you're going to need. Besides, when we come in and press, you're going to need some butcher paper or the parchment paper to make sure that you're protecting your heating element on your heat press. And then of course, you're going to want some heat resistant tape. Don't use regular tape because that's going to be a hot mess. And you're gonna wanna tape down your designs. But without further ado, let's get outside and get bleaching. It's a beautiful day. You guys, we're done outside. We just washed and dried our shirts, and now we need to press the sublimation print onto the shirt. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to pre-press the shirt to make sure that we get any of the moisture outside of the shirt, because sublimation ink and moisture don't mix well. So we want to make sure we get any of the moisture out before we press. Now, whenever I press my sublimation shirts, I do it at 400 degrees. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pre-press this for about 5 to 10 seconds is all. All right, both have been pre-pressed. So again, just getting all that moisture out. And you guys may have noticed that I have some sheets here. You can see I've got one on the bottom, and then I've got one on the top that is hooked on with magnets. All this is like a heat resistant sheet, or a Teflon sheet really is what it is. And then I just use that as an extra protection for my press, because sublimation ink, no matter what, even if I pressed this shirt a month ago, if I pre-press it, it will reactivate that ink, and then that ink could get on my platen, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm constantly protecting my press, because if the sublimation ink gets on these, I can throw these away. I don't want to have to treat or throw away my press and get a new one. So with sublimation though, the Teflon sheets aren't the best for it, because they can actually trap in moisture. So you need to make sure that you also use a butcher paper or parchment paper in between that's going to help get that moisture out. So what do we do next? I'm going to get my parchment paper like I was showing you before. I'm going to get 2 sheets. You guys can use parchment paper or butcher paper. I like to use parchment paper in between my shirts, just because it's like a little bit slipperier and easier to slide in between. So I got that one there, and then we'll get another one. Again, you can use butcher paper or parchment paper. Just make sure it's the non-wax kind. Here we go, these are both ready. So they've been pre-pressed. You've got the parchment paper inside. And the reason we're doing it inside is because when the heat activates, or when the ink activates, it turns into a gas. And that gas is gonna go and basically adhere to your shirt. And it can go through the shirt to the back of your shirt. Doesn't happen very often. Typically is gonna happen on the lighter color shirts. So of course, when I bleach this is now a lighter color, and it does have some spots of lighter color on the back. So that ink could go through to the back. So that's the main reason you see people put a sheet in between. So let's go ahead and do the Mama Bear first. This is the one that you watched me paint the bleach on. Now, one thing I want to make sure you guys know, you saw that I used like a template, right? You want to make sure that when you're doing the template that you're doing it in the right direction, so front or back, because I have to press this down. You want to make sure it's the right direction. Hopefully that makes sense. I always tape down my image, because if you don't, it could ghost. What that basically means is it could shift during the process of sublimating. And when it shifts, it basically is going to have like a shadow upon itself. So but it's like a ghost. It's the best way to describe it. And so I definitely tape it down so that that doesn't happen. I don't want to get this far into my process and then have a ghost on me. I'm gonna pick it up, lay it right here. Now, most sublimation paper, that's what this was printed on, most of them actually do blow out the back. What that basically means is that ink is going to become activated and it can touch the Teflon or the platen. So you typically want to use, in this case, I'm gonna use butcher paper, but again, you could use parchment paper. And I'm gonna just cover it up like this, just again, to protect my press if that paper blows out. Now, the nice thing about this Starcraft paper that I'm using, it has very little to no blowout, but I still do it just as an extra precaution. So I just pressed it at 400 degrees for 60 seconds under my heat press. Now, typically you don't want to reuse this piece of butcher paper, because that image can somewhat blow out, what we call it, onto the butcher paper. In my case, I use Starcraft paper and it very seldom blows out. So I typically can reuse this, but one way you can do that is hold it up to a light like this. And if I can see the image on there, I'm not going to reuse it. In this case, I don't see the image, so we're good to go. So let's look and see how it turned out. I like to use my Cricut spatula to pull up the image. Ooh, it looks good. Oh my gosh, it's awesome. You guys, like, this is my art piece. I didn't design this art piece, but I drew it from, I think it's called Let's Make Art. It's a monthly subscription that you can subscribe to, and then she does shows on YouTube and it teaches you how to watercolor. So this is one of the watercolors that I did, and then I put it on a shirt. How awesome did that turn out? So cool. And just in case you guys are curious, all I do is I do my watercolor and then I scan it on my scanner and then upload it as a digital design. That's how I print it in Sublimation ink. Okay, now I can tell that this came across a little scorched. So like we were talking about from the beginning, when I use hydrogen peroxide outside to help slow down the bleaching process, inside we're gonna do it here to get rid of those scorch marks. So I'm gonna grab my hydrogen peroxide, and I'm almost out, so it takes me a few squirts. Come on. There we go. All right. Sorry, I'm really not squirting that much. There's just barely any left. Okay. Then all I do is I lower my platen about 1 inch or 2 above the design. And all that does is it's going to help evaporate it. Turned out awesome, right? So again, from the mock design in the last tutorial to bringing it real, in real life, what it would look like. Now again, I added the extra scrunching technique where I didn't do that on the mock-up, but that's just how I like to do my bleach shirts. And that's the crisp line that we did with the paintbrush. All right, next, let's move on to the donut design. And again, I designed that with you guys in a prior tutorial. If I didn't already link it, I'll go ahead and link it above right now. And now we want to go ahead and put this design on. Now, one thing I want to make sure you guys understand, these need to be mirrored. So you need to print them mirrored. So when I look at this, this is totally backwards and I'm like, oh, this is not gonna look good, right? But when I go to lay it down, I can see through the piece of paper. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Nope, you can't. But to me, I can see, especially if I hold it up to the light, I can see that it says, do not mess with me, right? And I know that when I go to press this, it's gonna mirror back at me and it's gonna read correctly. If you go to see this and it doesn't read correctly, then you didn't mirror your design. Hurry and go print another one before you ruin your shirt. I'm gonna go ahead and just put this right here in the middle of this bleach design that I did. Tape it on, give it 2. Like I said, I can reuse this. Typically you don't, just depends on the type of paper you're using. But because I'm using Starcraft and it doesn't blow out, I'm fine to reuse that. And I'm only using it just as an extra precaution to take care of my press and my Teflon sheet to make sure that none of that ink bleeds through. You guys, look how good it looks. So cute. I love the way this turned out. I had to hurry and put it on while we're waiting for this one to press. It's got about 5 more seconds left. All right, let's see how it looks. This one's scorched a little bit as well. So again, I'm just gonna use my hydrogen peroxide to spray it to lift some of those scorch marks off. Ooh, so cute. Look how cute that is. Do not mess with me. Love it, so cute. Let's go ahead and spray it just a tad to get those scorch marks away. Improvising, it's almost gone. I just had to tilt it enough so that some of that hydrogen peroxide would come out. So again, I just sprayed the hydrogen peroxide on it. I'm not letting my platinum touch. I am just helping it to evaporate. And voila, the scorch marks are gone. Ta-da! How cute is that? I made these. I made them both. They're adorable. So what do you guys think? Did you guys have fun? I had fun, especially from start to finish, doing your mock-up design, seeing if it's something that you're gonna like, and then actually getting the shirts, printing your design, taking it outside, bleaching it, washing it, and then sublimating it all the way to the end. So I hope you guys learned something new. I hope that you had fun. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, but most importantly, you guys ring that bell so that you get notified anytime that I upload a new video. Until next time, we'll see you later, friends.